She's not one of us. Stop calling me Grandpa. Those words, said to a 5-year-old girl who was running to hug him. My name is Maya. I'm 32 years old. And I have replayed that moment in my head every single day since it happened. The way Lily's little arms were already open. The way she was smiling. She didn't even know what hit her. We were at a family backyard gathering. Daniel's family, my family by marriage. There was food on the table, kids running around, music playing softly. It was supposed to be a good afternoon. It had been a good afternoon, right up until Gerald opened his mouth. Before we continue with this video, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Gerald is 68. He is Daniel's stepfather. He is the kind of man who walks into a room and assumes everyone is already listening. Broad shoulders, slow speech, the permanent expression of someone who has never once been told he was wrong. And the moment Lily ran toward him, arms out, screaming, "Grandpa," he looked down at her like she was a stranger at his door. I dropped the bowl I was holding. Daniel was already standing up. And the look on Gerald's face? He didn't look sorry. He looked certain. That sound, Daniel's chair scraping concrete, cut through every conversation at that table like a blade. But before Daniel could say a word, I need you to understand something. Because this didn't start in that backyard. It started quietly, the way the worst things always do. Gerald had never been warm to me. Not once in 3 years of marriage. Handshakes, never hugs. Maya, never sweetheart or daughter. The way he called Renee's friends by their first names like they'd always belonged. I told myself it was generational. I told myself I was being sensitive. Daniel's mother, Carol, was different, softer, quicker to laugh, the first one to hold Lily as a newborn. But Carol had a habit I didn't fully understand yet. She watched Gerald's face before she responded to anything. Anything. 3 months before that gathering, Gerald had pulled Daniel aside and asked, casually, like it was nothing, whether I had disclosed my full family history. Daniel told me about it later, laughing it off. I didn't laugh. Now, standing in that backyard, I was replaying every small moment. Every cold handshake. Every careful question. Lily was still holding my hand, and Daniel looked at Gerald and said, "Say that again." Gerald didn't flinch. He straightened up, crossed his arms, and said, "You know what I mean, Daniel. We've talked about this." The entire table went silent. And I mean silent, the kind where you can hear the ice melting in someone's glass. Someone quietly gathered the other kids and took them inside. I noticed that. I noticed everything in slow motion. I turned to Daniel. "You've talked about what?" And that's when Gerald said it. Out loud. In front of everyone. He told the table that he had privately urged Daniel, months ago, to sort out Lily's paternity. That Lily didn't resemble anyone in the family. That he'd heard things from someone he wouldn't say who. That he had decided, in his own quiet courtroom, that Lily wasn't Daniel's. And if she wasn't Daniel's, in Gerald's mind, she wasn't family. My daughter was 5 years old, and this man had already tried and sentenced her. I couldn't speak. But Daniel reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, opened something, and held the screen up toward Gerald. I couldn't see what it was. Gerald could. And for the first time all afternoon, Gerald's face changed. Daniel said, "Tell me, Dad. Who does she look like now?" Every person at that table leaned forward. I stepped closer to Daniel, trying to see the screen. My heart was hammering so loud, I could feel it in my throat. It was a DNA test result. Daniel had ordered it weeks ago, not because he doubted me. He looked at me when he said that, and I believed him. He ordered it because Gerald had been dripping poison into his ear for months, and Daniel wanted one document, one undeniable piece of paper, that would shut it down permanently. The result was right there on the screen in clean black text. Lily was his daughter. 99.998%. Gerald said nothing. And that's when Carol spoke. She had been standing at the edge of the patio the entire time, hand pressed over her mouth. She looked at Gerald, not at the phone, not at me, directly at her husband, and said, "How long have you been doing this to people?" That sentence didn't sound like a question. It sounded like something she had been holding for years. I wasn't relieved. I was shattered. because the test existing meant the question had existed. And Lily, my 5-year-old, had heard every word spoken in that backyard today. Then Renee stood up and said, "There's something else everyone needs to know about Dad." Renee's voice didn't shake. That was the part that scared me most. She told the table that Gerald had done this before. A decade ago, when Renee was still married to her first husband, Marcus, Gerald had quietly circulated doubts about whether their son was really Marcus's child. No evidence. No basis. Just Gerald, planting seeds in private conversations until the ground under that marriage turned to sand. Renee and Marcus divorced. Their son grew up without his father in the home. Carol knew. She had always known. The table didn't erupt. It just collapsed inward. People stopped making eye contact. Someone set down a fork very slowly. I sat down. I pulled Lily into my lap and held her the way you hold something you almost lost without knowing it was in danger. Daniel knelt in front of us both. He said he was sorry, not for doubting, but for not shutting Gerald down the moment it started. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was an honest one. Gerald left alone. Nobody walked him out. In the weeks that followed, Carol began therapy. Renee and I started talking, slowly, carefully, rebuilding on honest ground for the first time. Daniel cut contact with Gerald and held that boundary for 4 months until a written apology arrived. It read more like a legal statement than remorse. But it arrived. 6 months later, at Lily's 6th birthday party, she ran across the yard with her arms wide open, and this time, she ran toward Carol. "Grandma." Carol caught her, held her tight, pressed her face into Lily's curls. Nobody said a word.